What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pixelists Podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. That's Blake. I'm Will. And for our regular viewers that didn't catch our last, I guess, live stream, or
Yeah.
maybe it was whenever it was, we don't
Yeah.
have our intro music anymore. So in case you missed the spiel last time, it's because it all of a sudden started getting flagged by YouTube after 3 years. So for the time being, we're just launching straight into things. So didn't want to
Big
jump scare
YouTube.
anybody, but
Yeah, big YouTube said they had enough. They're like, we're done with this channel stealing this copyright music, even though it was marked as copyright
it's
free,
supposed to
royalty
be
free,
copyright
whatever.
free, So,
Yeah. So
but yeah,
anyway, how's it going?
it's going all right. I got a little bit of a headache creeping on, which I don't know, and then, not to get into a whole thing, but if I get a headache, it's either like nothing or it's like debilitating. So I'm kind of in
Don't
that
you
stage where I'm waiting to see which way it's going to go.
don't you get migraines?
I
I
used
feel like
to, like growing up, I used to get them all the time, but I think
that's
that was
right.
mainly because of my eyesight back in the day.
Okay, isn't it kind of interesting the things that like are normal and then because I forgot that I remember that when you were a kid
Yeah.
having migraines. So I had something interesting for me. I had like around middle of the day, I'd start to get really bad headaches also. And it's this monitor here that I always use. Well,
Yeah.
I got a new monitor like 6, 7 months ago. And I even have I don't know where they are, but I even had like glasses, like blue light glasses
Yeah.
that I would
Yeah.
wear to see if they would help. Well, anyway, since getting this new monitor, I don't have the issue anymore.
Whoa, weird.
So must be something up with this monitor, even though I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's like a difference in the technology, I guess, or something.
I have no idea. Maybe this one's brighter. It's like Ice Train. I don't know.
Hmm.
Too
Do you
stupid to know
still
any of that stuff. So
you still have the other one though?
I use them both. This is like my like throw up like the Reddit post to like read, and this is like the actual like work
Yeah.
monitor.
Interesting.
Neither is a green screen either. So it's a throwback. That's an inside. That's some deeper
That's
Pixelist lore.
that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
If
Well,
Nate is somehow out there watching, he's the only other
yeah.
person that understands that joke.
Yeah.
um,
Well, we're here to talk Critical Role,
yeah,
and
and yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, just talk about the amazing live show that you got to go to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to like, you know, we talked a little bit about this already in our what was the last? Was it our live stream that we did?
Friday. Yeah,
Yeah,
last
okay,
Friday.
that's what it was. So we talked a little bit about it there. And I know we're going to have some overlap, but I also know probably a lot of you didn't see the live stream. So, very briefly, the live show was amazing. Was lucky enough to get to go out to it. For those of you that did not know, it was so cool to see the cast in person, to get the live show experience. My only, my one sadness about it is that there were no natural 20s from the cast, which I just, that moment would have been hype. I was ready for it, but that's the only bad thing about the whole experience. It was great. Got to meet some of you guys, which was unexpected but really cool. So again, I mentioned this in the live chat, but special shout out to Chris, Eugene, Robert, Kate, and Andrew, all of whom came up and introduced themselves, and that was just a really cool experience. So shout out to you guys. And good chance to show you. I got us some shirts.
Okay, I heard crinkle wrapper. I was like, are you gonna pull out some drugs on stream or?
So this
also,
is
while I
hopefully
was
this comes
there.
through. This is the front.
Yeah, it looks good.
And then the back is that artwork that's like gorgeous.
Oh wow, that's a great one.
Yeah, and it says like, you probably can't tell, but it says like live at the Greek Theater on the front. So
yeah, cool.
got one of these headed your way, and then each shirt came with a poster. So
Ooh,
show you that real quick.
Little poster action.
It's like a little mini poster, but
yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah,
I'm all about it.
So yeah, next time we see each other in person, I will get those to you.
So
But yeah,
a, a
or go
note
ahead.
to the a note to the writing team for Critical Role: more nat 20s next
Yeah,
time.
get some more nat 20s for the live show. Let
Yep.
us feast upon that. But yeah, it was a great time. Yeah, I guess
Okay.
I don't know if there's
Well,
too much more to say now that we've all seen it, but yeah, loved the episode. We're gonna talk about that now. Well, actually, couple quick things. First and foremost, not or no, it is no, not this Sunday, right? July 7th,
mhm.
I think. Sunday, July 7th, we are starting our annual Calamity rewatch. And perfect timing, right? Because given where the actual campaign is going right now, it might serve as a nice little refresher for a little Brennan Lee Mulligan DMing at the Critical Role table. But I say annual because we did this last year. It was a bunch of fun. We rewatched all 4 episodes of Calamity, one per week every Sunday. So that's what we're going to do again starting the 7th. So would love to have you join us for that. It will all be taking place in our Discord, which you will be able to find linked in the description of this video if you are not already a member. And then the only other thing, unless you had anything to add about the watch party, the only other thing, which we mentioned in our live stream the other day, is that this Sunday is the start of Games Done Quick, which is something Blake and I have talked about a lot on the channel if you've been following us for a while. But it's a big event, charity event for a great cause that we love. It's a speed running marathon that lasts literally from when it starts this Sunday, 24/7 through next Saturday night. So a whole week nonstop, speed running all sorts of video games. It's amazing. We sometimes make a video like right
Mhm.
before it comes out to kind of fill people in. I don't know if we'll be doing that this time. But you can find it on our old videos if you want to see those. But just plugging that, signal boosting that. Good cause, a lot of fun for nerdy people like us. So check it out.
Good stuff. I
Yeah,
really enjoy it. It makes me so sad. Like, I don't do a lot of stuff in general, but anytime there's GDQ, I always have something going on.
right. Yeah.
I have a wedding in Colorado next week, from Thursday to Sunday. I think I get back Sunday afternoon, so I'm gonna miss the prime time of
Mm.
it. So,
Yeah, but you know what? There's goodness all around. But yeah, the last day especially is always like all hitters. But you still got some goodness to
yeah,
latch on
I'm
to
actually
the
I'm actually
start of the week.
officiating the wedding too,
You're
which
officiating it,
I am.
dude. That's awesome.
So, and I met the bride a couple weeks ago. And she goes, "You ever done this before?" I was like, "Nope." But I can't make it, super awkward, right? So we'll see.
Well, dude, that's awesome. I'm excited to hear how that goes. Did you already get like your
Yeah.
certification or whatever?
So the good news is they actually got married already, and so this is
Mm,
just like the ceremony. So
okay,
I didn't have to do anything. So that was
gotcha.
kind of a nice thing for me. And I own one suit, and it's blue. And she asked if I had a blue suit, and I was
Oh,
like,
well, that
yes,
that works out then.
because I do not have any dollars in my bank account to buy a new suit. So,
You have your
anywho,
choice of blue.
yes.
Nice, man. I'm excited to hear how
But
that goes.
yeah, I'm gonna pull out my D&D DM skill set, and
Yep.
anyway, they're like, please stop and just do the wedding.
May you roll a natural 20 on the charisma check, sir.
So, anywho, all right.
Anyways,
Well, I think
yeah,
that's all the announcements, right?
I believe so. So without further ado, let's jump into talking about this live show. And if you're new to us, what we like to do first is give a recap of the episode so that we're all on the same page, diving into the discussion. And we also cut that recap out, host it as its own video for your catching up convenience. So if you find yourself just on the recap video and you want to hear our full thoughts, that will be linked down in the description below. All right. So to kick us off, episode 98 of Campaign 3 was called The Nox Engine. And we pick up with Bell's Hells exploring Aor, where we had left them off, particularly in this chamber where there was a lot of carnage, a lot of bodies, a lot of chains all over the floor. And members of Bell's Hells had started to experience this kind of delusion, this vision. Specifically, Chetney had just come off of one. And where we left off in episode 97 was Dorian having just had one of these visions where he saw his brother Cyrus, who was basically, blaming him for his death. So this episode picks up with that vision kind of still going on, and Dorian saying, "This isn't real. Like, you're not my brother." And Cyrus says, like, "I'm not lost. My soul is trapped here, but I can be saved. Like, there's a curse in this place. You have to stop it. It's preventing us from passing on. Like, free us." And then Dorian sees like this purple crystal start to like spin. And it's at this point that Dorian kind of snaps out of it. And where his brother was is now just this ancient corpse that was always in the room. And he just starts like digging through the corpse to try to find this crystal that he saw in his vision. But he cannot find it. And Dorian tells everybody else what he saw, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, something weird is going on here. We need to be careful. Like, it's trying to trick us." And then Imogen actually is the next one to kind of have one of these visions. And with her, she's like on Ruidus and she sees her mother. But Imogen is not falling for it. She's like, "Hey, show yourself, like, show your true self. Perhaps we can talk, like, make a deal." But Liliana doesn't really engage with that and instead says, like, "You must destroy the pinion. Like, it's the only way." And it's at this point that Imogen snaps out of it, tells the others, and they're like, "Yeah, this thing really wants this crystal to be destroyed. But is this a good idea or a bad idea? Like, what would Ludinus want here? Like, does he want the Dominox trapped? And if we let it out, would that be like a good thing for us? Maybe we could pit the Dominox against Ludinus." And they're kind of discussing these ideas while further investigating around them. And they go into one of the adjacent rooms, and it's like this testing lab that they come to find out there are runes on these tables that were like protective while they were experimenting on things. And in this room, in a barrel, basically, they find this old armor where presumably what they glean is that like this barrel had been used to like disintegrate stuff, someone perhaps, and then this cloak was like the only thing that managed to survive. So they tuck that away as it's clearly magical, but don't really investigate it further right now. They do some more investigating around, and Orem can actually hear something coming from behind one of the doors. So they're like, "What should we do? Should we leave that? Should we investigate it?" And as they're talking, Dorian just goes up to the door and does the shave and a haircut knock. And then they get a reply back, a reply knock back. So they open the door, and inside this room is a minotaur, mostly black and light. Well, excuse me, black and white with armor with the symbol of two dark horns on it. And this is when Sam Riegel comes out and joins the table, as this is his new character, who we come to find out is Breas Doomseed. The first thing they notice is that he is pouring blood from a big wound on his throat. But Breas immediately recognizes Tevin, who is Fern's devil pact guy. And he's like, "Oh, like, you're with Tevin? I can trust you guys then. It's been tough out here for religious people, so I've had to be on guard." And they're like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And it's funny because Breas basically explains everything about the main campaign to them. Like, "Oh, I'm here for Ludinus. He created this thing called the Bloody Bridge." And they're like, "We know." So the long story short is that Breas was like an undercover agent within the Ruby Vanguard that had come to try and kill Ludinus. But before he got his chance, while they were coming down here exploring, the Dominox started giving people in his crew these visions, and they basically all turned against each other, and all of them died except for Breas, but he has this really bad throat wound, so like he's not doing great either. Um, so I think it's at this point that Dorian actually heals Breas a little bit, and they're trying to decide like if they can trust this guy, and they're like, "Who's your god?" And he's reluctant to share because he's like, "I don't really know if I can trust you guys." And as they continue talking, Ashton now has one of these visions, and in his vision it's like the dismembered F.C.G crawling towards him and blaming him for what happened. But Ashton is having none of it. He's like, "We know, like, we know this is you, dude. Like, stop trying to trick us. Like, just talk to us yourself. This is making us not want to help you." But again, the Dominax just like keeps going on with this trick. And as FCG says, you have to destroy the crystal. Like, that's the only way to help me pass on. My soul's trapped here. The vision ends. Ashton tells the rest of them. And once again, Laudna's like, okay, but Breas, which god do you serve? And he says, the Platinum Dragon. And he rolls like really high on his deception or persuasion. So they basically have to believe him. And a little side note is that Breas is basically flirting with everyone he gets the chance to, and he is fanboying over Tevin. It's at this point that Essig points out, like, hey, I found something over here. And there's like these little portholes in the room that let you view into another room. And that other room is the engine room. And inside there is this purple floating crystal that they've been seeing in their visions. So they ultimately make their way into this room. And when they do, the door like shuts behind them. And inside there's like this apparition of a little girl, which is like the form the Dominax is taking now. And she's speaking inside all of their minds. And basically what happens next for like the next 30, 45 minutes is a lot of back and forth, a lot of negotiating where like they're trying to decide, can they trust the Dominax? Would it be a good idea to free it just to like have it go against lewdness? And a lot of back and forth. In this engine room where they're locked in, by the way, there is another door on the other side. And Chetney goes to like investigate this. And as soon as he moves, the Dominax like hurls a chain and impales Chetney and drags him up to her. And he's like, okay. So Chetney then like tries to make a deal with the Dominax, saying like, I'll free you, just like let me go and we'll figure this out. And so the Dominax does, and then transforms into her true form, which is like this grotesque, massive demon that has another head on the end of its tail. And it basically lifts Chetney up to where this purple crystal is so that he can get to it and destroy it. Orym uses all that happening as a distraction to go once again to that door and try to open it, but it's locked. And the Dominax sees this with his tail head and is like, you lied to me. Like, what are you guys doing? And basically at that point things just pop off. So we're gonna roll initiative, but the last thing that happens is Laudna decides to cast animate object on the locked door, and that's where we go to break for the first half.
Yeah, great job, man. So the second half of the live show is pretty much entirely combat. And if you haven't checked out our channel before, we typically just hit the high notes in combat. There's a few pretty funny things that happen in this combat session. First of all, Breas, still flirtatious, is absolutely trying to earn the respect of Tevin, who Tevin, by the way, is being your stereotypical high-level paladin. I think his first attack is like a divine smite for like 60 plus damage. Breas, by the way, later in combat's also going to try to do a divine smite, but it's only like 20 or 30 damage. But basically asks Tevin to put in a good word, like with the boss for him. There's also a point where Breas also admits, to the surprise of no one, that he does not actually represent the Platinum Dragon, but that he actually represents Asmodeus, the Lord of the Hells. Some other things that happen in this combat. Chetney's going to get rechained, reimpaled again. And there's ultimately like this back and forth discussion on like, should we destroy this crystal or not? Like, is that what we're supposed to do? Like, what would Ludinus want? There's pretty much a lot of what are we doing, everybody, during this combat. Laudna, who's animated the door eventually is going to be opened, and behind that door is going to be a hallway, which Laudna is going to see a shadowy figure at the end of it. And upon inspecting further, this is the Ludinus Deleth, who is rushing out from the hallway. Ludinus rushes past her. Laudna doesn't attack, just kind of like, what's happening? And Ludinus is basically telling them, like, help me defeat the demon, which Laudna then's like, oh, well, if Ludinus is pro defeat the demon, then we should be anti-Ludinus. So then she calls out, hey, destroy the crystal, set the demon free. But again, everyone's like, wait, what? Like, what are we doing? Combat continues. There's a moment where Chetney actually, Imogen does telekinesis on Chetney and tries to throw him down the hallway into like a place of safety, which being chained to the demon actually pulls the, I should say, pulls the demon closer to the door as well. But this is not before Chetney actually takes the pinion, the crystal, and stuffs it into the bag of holding. And then casts invisibility on himself so he can just sort of like hide in the hallway away from all danger. Ludinus is going to fly up in the air and is going to cast Gate, and he opens a portal to the what's it called?
Abyss.
The Abyss. Thank you.
Yeah.
To the Abyss, and as we know, and as he shares with us, if the Dominox dies in the Abyss, he dies permanently. So begins to try to convince the party to help push him into the Abyss and slay him. Again, the party isn't really sure what they want to do. So there's some interesting roles of people like trying to, I think Imogen maybe tried to cast like a lightning bolt on Ludinus, or maybe it was on the Dominox. But and then also Fern is going to try to cast polymorph on Ludinus. But it fails. We also find out Ludinus actually has resistance to all spell effects on him, by the way. Or I shouldn't say resistance, has advantage against all of them, which is a pretty powerful modifier. And we also do get a second round of the Laudna counterspells Ludinus moment, where I think Ludinus tries to counterspell someone, and then Laudna then counterspells him. Which was a great callback to that happening earlier in the campaign, their last interaction. All that to say, I think it's Ashton who eventually pushes the Dominox into the Abyss. They do the final blows, and they do, in fact, kill the Dominox and destroy it completely. And then they're kind of like, okay, what do we do now? And Ludinus is like, hey, I'm just here to talk. In fact, I want to show you something. The party very carefully follows him down this hallway that he came out of, with the exception of Orem, who's extremely hesitant to do anything this person is asking them to do. And Fern, being the great friend that she is, offers to walk alongside him and even carry him down this hallway to see what's at the end of it. At the end of this hallway, they step into another room where I think Matt describes what seems like a large, massive, I think it was like a green sphere, but some kind of device that's in this room. I think he even said it was like cracked in one spot.
Yeah.
Ludinus steps into the room leading them and basically says, this device back during the calamity was a prized Aeorian piece of technology, and it effectively captured all the events of the city and everything that was said by every person in the city leading up to Aeor's destruction, and basically says, hey, this is the smoking gun for why the gods must be destroyed, why they must be defeated. If don't take my word for it, let me just show you. And he puts his hand on the device, and I think it begins like to diffuse this energy or smoke, which covers the cast. Then Matt gets up from the table. The Brennan Lee Mulligan walks out. They give each other a hug. Brennan sits down, and I can't give it justice, but in true Brennan fashion, he holds his hands up and says, light, and begins to describe a palace of light. And I think he mentions has all these other elements of fire and water and air that are present, but gives us just the smallest description of a palace before saying, is it Thursday yet? And that is where the live show comes to a close. Episode 98 of Campaign 3, The Nox Engine. That's our recap today. If you're watching just the recap, we want to hear what you thought about the episode, and we're going to share our thoughts on the episode. So click the link in the description to get our full discussion, and we'll go from there. So,
well done. Well done.
All right. Man.
Yeah.
A really fun live show to watch. I'm sure you had a great time.
Yeah. It was really fun. Great episode. And then of course, like you just mentioned, that ending little vignette with Brennan was, amazing. And Unexpected. We talked about it before. We expected Brennan to, maybe come be a player at the table. So I was like expecting something from him. And yeah, but to have it be that and to have it be setting up Calamity Downfall or whatever we want to call it, super exciting. I can't wait to
Yeah,
dive in.
I think I went through all the stages of grief because I was in like the acceptance phase. Like as the Dominox was killed, I was like, oh, I guess, and I knew there was only I'd seen the runtime, so I knew there was only
Yeah.
like 20 minutes left. So I was like, oh, I guess Brennan's not really gonna be on. And I was like, I think he lives in LA, and so I guess it was really just like, hey, we're both in town, come by. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. But then when he came out, I was like, let's go. So it was a cool moment for sure.
It was. And I don't really know like I kind of just want to start at the end, I guess, since we're talking about it. And just in general, this is such a cool move from the team, I think. To just to like try something like this, I think it's been a long time now, but at the start of the campaign, they kind of told us, things might be a little different this campaign. And I think this is a great example of them like doing something like that, especially since it is part of campaign 3, like the way they're integrating it and it's not going to be EXU or whatever. So I think it's just an awesome, like fun kind of experiment to do.
Excuse me.
Um, really cool to have like the trust in Brennan and um even the cast as well, which is like half normal cast, half new guests, to like play such a pivotal role in the moment of this climax of this story that really is spans beyond just campaign 3. Just with the
Mm.
way they're doing it, because we're going to be viewing this memory, but it's all going to be actually played. So like, and we talked a little bit about this in our live stream, but I'm sure there are some rails, to use a taboo word in the D&D community, to what can happen there. But at the same time, like I'm sure they knowing Matt and Brennan, like I'm sure there is a lot of creative freedom there. So it's just really cool that they're like taking this gamble really to like set up these really pivotal things that are going to impact the rest of the story. Like
Yeah.
I don't think
I,
it'll be as clean as everyone's team lewdness on Bell's Hells after this ends. There's like way too much like too many factors, too many gray areas, but like this could shift Bell's Hells toward like okay, like Lunas has a point. So I just story of this rant is that I love this idea. I think it's so cool that they're doing something like this.
yeah, I love it too. And on your comment on like creative freedom, I think Brennan has said before that like Matt is so collaborative in this whole kind of like when they did Calamity, Matt was so collaborative, but also like I think the way Brennan phrased it was he had like questions like, hey, like, so what about this? And Matt was like, whatever you want. And so I think it's really exciting to. I also really like that Brennan is kind of becoming like the Calamity, like that era of like, engaging with that kind of content. Who's to say if there will be like a third series during the Calamity? But I mean, this had to happen at some point, right? I mean, Calamity to this day is still probably my favorite form of media of content. And so for me, it was only a matter of time they did something like this. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait for them to air that first episode.
Yeah. And not only is it so cool from a storytelling perspective, but like you just said, it was almost inevitable with how successful it was that they would try to kind of like inject some of that again. So super excited. And I love that like they all get along so well. And we've talked about this at some point in the past. Like it feels like we're in a kind of a new era. And I'm sure you can still find like bitter rivalries if you go look for them, but it feels like we're in an era of like cool collaboration instead of like, oh, you kind of do what I do, so we're competing and I'm not gonna mess with you. Like, we're not gonna be cool. So
You
I just
know,
love that they have such a good relationship, it seems like.
yeah, and it not to make it too like thrown off, but I was at a business event a couple weeks ago, and there were two people like from the same industry that were there at this event, and I was talking to both of them. I knew them both separately, so I kind of made a joke of like, so which one of you guys do I talk to? And one
The
of
energy
them,
changed.
they're like, get out. but one of them was laughing about it and said, and she had been in the industry for forever. And she was like, when I first entered the industry, you didn't even talk to your competitors. Like it was a sin to even like mention your competitors' names. And she was like, now it's totally different. Now, like we swap notes, we have so much conversation. And I think it's like just a really healthy way to do business in the sense of like, it's having not to be like overly spiritualized, but like it's having like an abundance mindset and being like there's plenty of business, there's plenty of fans, and it's like all D&D content, like the more we can get of it out there, the better it is. And so I really appreciate that my two favorite D&D groups that they both see it that way and
Yeah.
that they are like, worlds are colliding with them. So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun to love D&D and see these two organizations collaborate.
100%. And it's just me compounding on this point, so I'll let it go after this. But just especially like to the point where Matt kind of handed over like the biggest moment of the night. Like he got up
Yeah.
from the table. Like just the humility to be able to do that and like give Brennan that moment at his live show. The first one in 3 years, the first one for campaign 3. I just thought that was such a cool move.
I didn't pick up on that. I love that you mentioned that. That's such a great call out, and it is a amazing display of humility. And it's the end of the show. It's the climax of the show. It's something Matt has undoubtedly been building towards for a long time. And so to hand that off to Brennan, who a lot of people actually in the Critical Role world, a lot of people still don't know who Brennan is because they don't watch Dimension 20, or maybe they didn't see Calamity.
Yeah.
I see a Reddit thread all the time of I finally watched Calamity. I finally watched and so I think it was just a very I don't want to just re-say what you said, so I'll just say well said. So
We love over here. So it's it's just cool to
yeah,
see. Cool to see two Titans being chill like
yeah,
that.
and just sharing the floor. That's a
Yeah,
great thing. So
100%.
I will
Um
say
yeah.
I can't let the conversation go without saying just my 30 seconds of shame on you to those of you being yet again toxic about
Mm.
I saw someone was posting about here we have another distraction from the campaign, and I'm kind of just like, man, you gotta just enjoy the show, man.
I saw
Try
that
not to.
too, where people are like really upset that like they're gonna have to wait a month or however long to get back to the campaign, which you know, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I get more and more tired of it every week. I'm just like, which, by the way, for you guys listening, if you enjoy Critical Role and you're not in the Discord, you got to join the Discord. It's for people who actually like Critical Role. And by the way, it doesn't mean that it's immune to criticism or that we don't have honest dialogue about it. But we just try not to get too bogged down in like the more like meandering criticisms that
Yeah.
are a little bit more entitled, I think.
Yeah,
So
for sure. But yeah,
anyway,
Discord can't I mean, it probably doesn't come off as like the most trustworthy from us. Like, of course, we're gonna plug our own Discord, but like it really is great. We got great people in there. So thank you guys for making that community what it is. And yeah, for those of you that aren't in it
yeah,
yet, you should definitely join. Um,
yeah.
but okay, now I want to talk about the end, like in the context of the universe itself. Cause like I don't know the right word. Very Brennan Lee Mulligan, the way he was describing the start of that vision, like I don't know, metaphysical. I don't know if that's the right word or not. Like
Yeah.
philosophical,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
like the way he said it was like it's not actually a palace, but like the way for your mortal mind to grasp it, think of it like a palace. So we know that this is going to be dealing with the fall of Aor and presumably the gods themselves. Like the players might be playing gods, or they might, or maybe it's champions of gods. But in any case, like the overall story is about how the gods took down
Hmm.
Aor. But like parts of Brennan starting that monologue made me wonder if he was even talking about the gods them, like because he was like it's about a people and like I can't remember what he said. I would need to watch it, but like some of the words he was using made me wonder if he was describing like the origin of the gods and how they came to Exandria. And maybe he
Mm.
was, but so I don't know. Did you get any of that at all?
I
Or do you
kind of
think he
thought
was
he was.
only talking about Aor?
It could be Aor because we know it was the height of technology. I read it as him describing like the Exandrian version of like Rivendell. Like this is the meeting where the gods are like, hey, we should probably really do something about that Aor city. Um, so for me, I thought he was kind of describing like a, you know, divine palace, spiritual palace
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. Like so it's kind of hard to, put words around it. It's like what's the expression like I can't even think of the expression, but you know, you see like in movies and stuff where they talk about like sci-fi like there's like planes of reality we can't even describe, and
Mhm.
and some people kind
Yeah.
of overdo that. I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain. But that's
Yeah.
kind of the vibe I got from that, was like it's beyond us, but for the sake of the story it's a palace.
Yeah.
So I kind of take it to be like that's going to be like the meeting of, hey, truce while we talk this out, and then from there they're going to go to Aor.
Okay. Yeah. So we're on the same page then, that it felt like what he was describing wasn't Aor, but it
Right.
was, something
Yeah.
otherworldly. Now, what's interesting about that is like this device presumably only captured what took place on Aor, like the
Right.
one that Ludinus is using. So like
Oh yeah.
so like
Yeah.
are we, maybe it was just some creative liberties from Brennan, and maybe it is Aor, or maybe like however this freaking device works, like assuming you walk into the boundaries of the city, maybe it can like see it
Yeah.
backwards in your mind, like maybe it has access to your memories, and so maybe we're seeing, since the gods were present there, like we even have more information than what took place only there.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
my guess would be more creative liberties and like, hey, we're not going to play too hard and fast on the rules here. It's just here's the
Yeah.
story of what
Yeah.
happened. And you know, I mean, I'm for it. More calamity. Let's go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um
In any case, like kind of devoid of the trying to figure out exactly what that
yeah.
is, it seems like we're going to find out both what happened in Aor and maybe some god history way before
Mhm.
Aor as well, um,
Yeah.
which is going to be really interesting.
And we're
It's
going to get
great.
some more matron lore maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really curious whether the characters are playing literal gods or champions. I'm very curious to see which deities are represented here. Um,
Yeah.
Feels like the matron almost has to be one, but maybe not. Like I feel like that would just be like a good choice overall. But like if we're gonna really get into the details, I'm wondering, since like the matron kind of seems to be like a little bit like maybe not
Mhm.
chill with it, like because she's a mortal that ascended compared to the other deities. Like I don't know if they would necessarily like be chill with her like that. I don't know. So
Mhm.
I could see the matron being one. I hope the matron is one, but wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't, I guess. Um
So we have Laura Bailey and Taliesin
and
are the
Ashley, I think.
and Ashley, that's right, are the at table traditional cast players. And it was basically the people who didn't play in the other one. Though no Liam O'Brien though,
No Liam.
notably.
Which is a bummer.
Um yeah. Yeah.
There
So
must be I mean, I'm sure there's a reason, but
yeah. Well,
curious.
maybe it was as simple as like any volunteers, and Liam said like, "Yeah, I'll sit out."
Yeah.
Maybe who knows? But Ashley was originally, sorry, not Ashley. Laura Bailey was originally supposed to be
Right.
in the original Calamity, and then had to bow out last minute. And then Marisha Ray took her spot. It's funny how these things happen though, because Marisha Paisha was such an amazing character. You almost can't imagine her not
Right.
being part
Yeah.
of the story. So I guess should we avoid spoilers for Calamity in this? But
I
I don't
mean,
know. But anyway, all I was going to say with this was that, the guest characters for Calamity were just such a delight to watch, that I'm really excited to meet these new people
me too.
and just, enjoy the show.
Me too. I'm very, very excited. I can't wait. And again, I'm just interested to see the implications of what we're gonna find out happens here. And like, okay, so I'm trying to decide how best to explain what I'm trying to think here. Do you like so, okay, so Ludinus, when he's showing them this stuff, he made some statement about like, yeah, Predathos is great, but like this is just as good. Like he made some sort of statement like that.
Yeah, there was something
So
said.
like,
I need to rewatch. I don't remember what it was, but I had the same like pause of like, oh,
yeah, like
okay.
again, that was a bad paraphrase on my part, but he basically
Yeah,
gave equal importance to what he was about to show them to
yeah.
Predathos. Like, I think he said something like the gods are, yeah, they're like mad at me because of Predathos, but like it made it seem like that wasn't even like his main plan, really. Or maybe
Yeah,
maybe it's not fair to say that, but like his plan isn't singularly release Predathos to destroy the gods. Like he got other irons in the fire. Was kind of like
it it was
the
kind of
vibe.
like, yeah, the vibe for me was like, hey, Predathos is the means of how I'm doing this, but this wasn't all about Predathos. This was about this, and I'm using Predathos to,
Yeah.
make whatever happen.
So it just makes me wonder, like, what does he think is so damning here that, like, he thinks he could even flip Bell's hells or, whatever else his grand plans involve? Because, yeah, I mean, we already know, and I think Bell's, I mean, maybe I might be confusing my knowledge with what Bell's hells knows, but do they know that Aor was taken down by the gods?
I think actually I don't know.
Well, in any case, it's like, it's common
Yeah.
knowledge isn't the right way to put it, but like, it's
Yeah.
knowledge that's out there, like,
Yeah.
for the
Maybe
people that
Essex
know.
shared it or yeah, I don't know.
So like there must be something like beyond that that Ludinus knows is going like could flip minds here. And like I don't know, maybe it's just like how maniacal the reasoning was. Like maybe it like cuz it's like, oh yeah, well the gods took the city down because the city was had a weapon
Yeah.
against them. And so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, like I mean I can see why. But like maybe it's like much darker than that. Like I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, I do wonder that too is like what's going to really make this compelling,
Right, yeah.
Cuz like it seems like the basic framework is like "Meh, it was bad, but it's a long
Yeah.
time ago. So I'm also with Brennan. I'm kind of like let him cook.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brennan's very good at like the high lore stuff. So, you know, uh, part of me is also kind of like, well, I mean, we know that Bell's Hell, they're not going to flip. They're not going to go Team Ludinus. But then also part of me is like, but what if they did?
Might they? I feel like it would be really
That
compelling
would
if a
be,
few of them were like, "Hey, he's got a good point." You know?
I mean, yeah, I think it'd be extremely interesting if, and I think it would almost create some more meaningful conversation than like what was a little bit drawn out of like, hey, are we pro gods or against the gods? Like, I don't know, and
Yeah,
it kept getting brought up, and there wasn't really like any anchor around that. This could maybe be that anchor that shifts them in a certain direction. So,
yeah. And I think I
speaking,
kind of, or go ahead.
good. I was changing the subject. Go ahead.
Oh, I think, and I hope I don't lose it here, but I think what I was trying to say clicked a little bit better in that, in terms of what this vision might show, I think it could be grander than what happened at Aor, and maybe is
Yeah.
more showing the history of the gods themselves, like dating back to what we were talking about earlier, like how they maybe first came to Exandria and just finding out more about their origins and maybe like, hey, like we've called these things gods and maybe there's some good reason for that due to like their strength and stuff, but like they're not. Like maybe like
Hmm.
these are just people that came from another place and
Hmm.
like they taught us that they were above us in these things, but hey, they're not. Like, and if anything, like, there's this whole weird, and there was an allusion to this in the original Calamity with
Hmm.
Luis's character about like
Hmm.
who actually is the parent versus the child. Like, there's some like weird dynamic there. And so I'm wondering if we'll maybe find out or get some light shed on that. And it's like maybe the gods have been like subjugating humanity and using like whatever the details are, but like something in that regard that's like, oh, like these things are not worth our worship type of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
um
All I was going to add was speaking of anchor, they have a soul anchor now.
yeah.
And I'm curious if that will be a plot device or if they'll try to eat it.
Try to eat it. I didn't even think about
Yeah.
that. um oh man, that is one. I mean, situation's gone now, but what if they had eaten the Dominox? That'd have been crazy.
Yeah.
um Yeah, I wondered what they would do with that. Like, can it be? I wonder how it can be used. If they can, like, can you soul anchor anything? Does it need to be a demon? Does it have to be tuned? Like, is it tuned to the abyss? So you need to only, I'm very curious. But yeah, I didn't even
Right.
think about absorbing it. That's, if nothing else, that should be something. Um,
I just feel like poor Matt. I feel like everything's that cartoon butterfly meme. We're like, can we consume this? And
yeah,
like, I just see Matt like 30 episodes later just being like, okay, yeah.
he did it to
So,
himself.
so you actually consumed that elephant person, and you now was it Loxodon?
Yeah.
The Loxodon Dragon Man, and so anyway, but yeah, curious for
Oh,
the live show for you, how you felt. I was a little underwhelmed by the combat. I mean, I don't know how like compelling you make it when you have three insane NPCs on your side. You know, Ludinus, Essek, and Tevin. All I was gonna say was I was just expecting a little bit more like despair from this grand demon. Which it was also like a live show, and there's gonna be a beginning, middle, and end, obviously, but I don't know if that crossed your mind at all, you being at the show.
in the moment, like it was hype the whole way because of like the different moments, and then of course like the lewdness reveal mid fight was crazy. So like I didn't have any of those thoughts, but like on a more meta level, I know what you're talking about. Like it seemed pretty easy, all things considered, for like
Yeah,
how big this thing had been built up. And yeah, I think that's partially a product of all of the strong NPCs, like you said, but I think it probably boils down to time.
yeah,
Because like they ended like 2 minutes before 11, and like that's when the show needed to end. And I'm sure there's like things in the contract about like you can only have the theater this long. So I think probably at some point Matt knew like what still needs to happen in this episode to set up the Brennan thing. And like I think he probably did a little DM to like make that
hmm
fight. Like if that fight happened in a normal episode, I think it would have been a lot more difficult. Like I think he was
yeah.
trying to, doing some DM time management there.
I think that's all pretty fair. That's a fair way to put it, I think.
That'd be my
So
guess at least.
there's definitely been. I was in a session with my players where like I think we were out of time, and someone like attacked the baddie, and I go, "How do you want to do this?" And they were like, "What, already?" I was like, "Yep, you killed it. It's dead."
Yeah, totally.
I
Because I
was
mean,
like, it's
they
the first
were
round. So
in classic Critical Role fashion. They were yapping a bunch
yeah,
about like, well, should we break the crystal? Or and I think
yeah,
Sam at one point was even like, are we fighting here or what? So I feel like
yeah,
maybe that like section drew out maybe longer than Matt anticipated, so he maybe had
yeah.
to shorten the combat a little bit. But yeah, as experiencing it, none of that like you felt none of that. It was all just like hype for
Yeah,
what was happening.
that's cool. Um, what else to talk about? So, because we chatted a
Um,
little bit in our live stream already. I mean, yeah, in our live stream about it. Um,
well, the other main thing, and there may be some other stuff that will come to me, but the main things were I wanted to talk about the end. But then Sam's new character,
oh, yeah, right.
Boreas Doomseed. Did
He's
not
a
expect,
paladin.
yeah, did not expect this big Minotaur.
Yeah.
As some people have pointed out in the Discord and online, as I'm sure most people have seen, but Sam has always played a small character. This is the first time he's ever played not only a normal size but a large character. So I don't know. It's just good to have him back at the table, and especially as he is a paladin but also a bard. It's just good to have him.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's paladin
Okay.
slash bard.
Oh, that explains for me then the high deception roll.
Yes,
I
yes.
was like, interesting. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Having started with C1, Scanlan, also a bard, insane charisma stat. Sam is just like a devious guy in general. And so having him be able to like tell these crazy lies and get away with it is something I've missed. And we also got a glimpse of that in Calamity as
Yeah, look.
Loquacious,
Yeah.
also a
Hmm.
bard. So I love Sam with the high charisma stat because he does
Yeah.
fun stuff with it, which we already got a glimpse of this episode. So really excited for the new character. When I heard Minotaur, I'm thinking Labyrinth. So when we
Yeah.
saw the character art and he's got like a humanoid face, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
like is this like some sort of like glamour mid form, or is that just like what his Minotaur looks like? And this was just, for the purposes of, whatever reason, maybe they wanted to make it more humanoid, or are Minotaurs like that? And I just have this one Labyrinth image in my mind, and that's not like, is that what you expected? Or like, I didn't know if that was
I had
weird or not. I was like, oh,
I had the exact same question. Um, I think it's because he's a half Minotaur. Because isn't
okay.
it didn't wasn't it that his dad was a Minotaur, but his mom was a human? I think
I must have just missed that because I don't even.
I think I'm pulling from a Reddit thread where someone like his D&D Beyond wasn't working, so he had like his handheld notes,
Hmm,
and like someone like
somebody
uber
CSI'd.
zoomed, yeah, and was like he had it like written out or something like his bio.
Okay.
Th- th- maybe, and for everyone listening, maybe I had a fever dream and I'm just like pulling this out of my rear, but I feel like that was somewhere on the internet that dad's a human, dad's a Minotaur, mom's a human, and that would explain it at least.
Yeah,
Is yeah, a half Minotaur.
that would make
So
sense.
yeah,
But
doesn't
yeah, it
make the
was.
lore any less confusing, but you know, so
So not that it's a big deal either way, but I wasn't familiar with those types of minotaurs. So maybe if any of
and
y'all have any more information in the comments, let us know.
and I
Um,
think it may be from the same Reddit thread. I can't remember, but was actually part of the Platinum Dragon and was kicked out.
oh,
And then like apparently like in his despair or like lack of direction turned to Asmodeus.
well,
Um
this is like deep lore.
yeah,
They
yeah.
got this from his sheet of paper.
This is what this could be a total fever dream. But then the other discussion about it was, could it be that he he's not actually not even a champion, but part of like Asmodeus's group, but he just admires Asmodeus.
Mm,
And so then with Tevin, it gives a little bit more insight to like the whole fanboy, like,
yeah,
can you put in a good word for me? Like all that stuff. If like he's trying to like earn his way into Asmodeus's, group.
yeah.
So
No, that's fascinating. I'm very curious to learn more about what's going on with Breus. But yeah, and I again, assuming that's true, which I'm gonna assume it is, unless you did have a fever dream. I love that. Um, I love the context that adds to him saying the Platinum Dragon, which
yeah,
classic Sam fashion. You just assume like, oh, he's picking something that's clearly not what he is. But now there's like
yeah,
depth to that. It's because no, he was. So
right,
I
right.
love that. Um,
Also, I loved him asking Imogen, "Are you single?" And Imogen going,
oh my
"Ah."
gosh,
I
dude.
was like, "Ooh,
Everyone like went, oh, like everyone was
yeah."
devastated at that moment.
Did you ever go back and watch that four-sided dive?
No, actually, I did. I still seen like the
You
first
should.
half, but I never finished it.
Yeah, this such great. It's probably my favorite one,
Yeah, I got to go
honestly.
back and finish.
Notably, Robbie is the MC and he's phenomenal at it. Or maybe MC is the wrong word, but incredible episode session, whatever. But anyway, yeah, that line from Laura Bailey, I was like, ooh, feels bad. So
Devastating, bro. Which we've talked a little bit about this. Maybe it was one or two episodes ago when the whole "I'm gonna miss our cottage" or whatever line. So not to rehash that conversation because this is basically the same thing, but like there's a big moment, like that statement's not for nothing. Like they're clear, like she clearly is like unsure about the direction Lauden is heading right now.
mhm,
So yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting how that's going to develop. But yeah, I love that
yeah.
Sam is just flirting with everybody. And now my mind is racing about these things about what you told me because like if he is half Minotaur and he was part of the Platinum Dragon, I'm like, and Sam, whatever Sam's gonna do is gonna be better than what my mind's racing right now. But I'm thinking like, oh, he's kind of caught between two worlds because I bet like a half Minotaur, Minotaurs are like associated with like evil stuff a lot. So like maybe that's why he couldn't really find a place in the Platinum Dragon, and now he can't really find a
Mhm.
place with the Asmodeus
look at
as
your
well.
yeah,
Like,
look at your wheel spinning there.
I just feel like this is some grounds for like a cool character.
Yeah, you got the Pepe Sylvia, like, and then this, you
Yeah.
know?
Um,
So,
so and we know, I mean, we've said it before. Sam always will kind of come at you with like not a veneer, but like there's some depth under there to be mined. So I'm interested to see. And to the conversation we were talking about earlier with Ludinus and the gods and stuff, assuming he is like a permanent C3 character for the rest of the way, like he's gonna be our new god anchor, I guess. Because like
yeah.
it was FCG and so it'll be I think there'll be some interesting dynamics here.
Just a really small detail. I loved you as you were talking. It got me thinking about what I love about all the different characters, and naturally, I went to Ashton because he's such a great character. But
Be your
I
favorite right
love
now?
they're all my favorite, dude. You know, I loved just the Dorian and him, the callback to the nobodies of them being like the
Yes.
new nobodies, and like let's go losers. And just I don't know. It's just there's something oddly wholesome from Ashton in
Yeah.
this session too, where I'm. Is it weird to say like I'm happy for him? Like I can't fully express what I'm feeling other than just like it's Ashton. Oddly enough, seems like the most whole person in the group.
Yeah, the
Uh,
most sane right now, which is
yeah.
scary.
So who arguably had one of the most like fragmented, like tragic beginnings. Um, so
Yeah.
anyway, I just I just really enjoyed that too.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And this is an unrelated thought, but talking about Robbie made me think of it. I not only do I really want to see Liam in the calamity landscape like with Brennan, but it would also be amazing to see Robbie there as well. So hopefully we get a
Yes.
part 3 with those two and some other new people.
Do you think Robbie's going to be a permanent cast member? Like have they ever brought someone back in this way?
Like for the rest of this campaign, or you mean like in
No,
general?
for in general.
Like campaign 4?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. My like gut instinct would be like no, like I think they would make like some sort of like we would know if that was going to be the case, but I would love for them to. And like I can't remember what was said like in the live Q&A versus like what was on stream, but like in one of those they talked about like just how much they loved Robbie and like they were waiting for him to come back. So it seems like assuming all the other things in life made that possible, it seems like they would. But
Yeah.
there's just like I'm sure it's like in a massive commitment to do Critical
Yeah.
Role. Like they just do it because they started it, but
Yeah.
like he's a working voice actor, got, flying all over the place all the time. I would imagine like that's probably the biggest hindrance to being like, yeah, I can be there every week for the next 3 years.
Well,
Um
shout out to Robbie though. Like what a sweet gig he ended up with.
yeah.
You mentioned people loving Robbie, and you mentioned the Q&A. I didn't know if there were any other like big things that came from the Q&A. By the way, I did read one that I think came from Liam. I guess he was asked about his interaction with Laudna, Orm and Laudna, and the sword. And I
Mm.
think what I read was that Liam said it was his favorite moment from any other character in the campaign this far.
Yeah, that one of the questions was, and I wonder if they're going to put that out ever. I bet they will. Maybe just after a while. But yeah, I think the question was like each of the cast name like one of your favorite moments that somebody else did like in the campaign. So Liam's was Marisha's choice to do the whole sword thing.
Which is so funny because again, just to lightly touch on like the toxic stuff,
Yeah.
people being like, they're so mad at each other. I'm just like, come on, guys.
Classic.
It's
Um
called acting.
uh,
Called
remind me
role
of that
playing.
Patrick Stewart skit, you know? You know what I'm talking about?
No, we
Um
the replacements, or what's it called? The
um I can't remember.
hello.
It's not important.
Yeah,
One
okay.
one other thing I will mention, and maybe more will come to me about the Q&A, but I mentioned this somewhere. It was either in the maybe it's in the Discord, but Matt on that question was, I think it was that question, said one of his favorite moments was Robbie as Dorian ditching Dariax.
Mm.
And so we talk about a lot about like, oh, was this planned like to set up this, and the other. Matt had no idea Robbie was going to do that. And so Matt said, I was already prepping for having Dariax join the Bell's Hells and how I was going to handle that.
Hmm.
Which that was really cool to learn. But then he was like, then Robbie pulled that out completely,
Hmm.
sideswiped me with it, but I absolutely loved it. Like it was devastating, but it's like such a cool move.
Yeah.
Devastating, not like for his plans,
Yeah.
but as Dariax, he means.
He mentioned that in Four-Sided Dive too.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I think they were having even a bit on like what was scripted. Not a bit
Mm,
is the total wrong word, by the way. They were having a conversation on what's scripted and not, and that specific point came up.
okay.
Along with Dorian's brother dying too.
Mm.
Did any of your questions get answered?
No, I only submitted one, and I can't even remember. Oh, mine was
Which
mine was a
which
more generic
Pixelist
question.
which Pixelist is your favorite? Was
Yeah.
that?
I said, "Hello, I'm Will from the Pixelist www."
Yeah.
No, I asked. I didn't know what the vibe of the questions were going to be, but all the ones that got asked were actually pretty much like a lot of them were deep C3 questions. And so the one I submitted was more general. But I
Yeah.
think I
Okay.
said like, if you could like to the cast, if you could recruit one person like in the fight against Ludinus and Predathos that you've voice acted, who would it be? Um,
Mm.
it didn't get asked though, but it was a good Q&A sesh.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
It
cool.
was fun, and Brennan was a fun MC. I mean, he only like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes total before the ending segment, but he brought a lot of energy. It was classic Brennan. He was great
Hmm.
at it. So
Hmm.
um, good time.
Well, I think that's gonna do it. Unless you have anything else you want to
I
throw
I
in about the
think
live
not,
show.
but let me give the old classic scroll through the notes real quick. But yeah, I think we hit on the main things I wanted.
Well,
Um,
we had a lot of great discussion in the Discord. So again, another plug for that. There's no episode tomorrow.
are they
Um,
doing anything tomorrow?
Someone posted the programming, and I took a look at it. I don't remember if there is or not, but there's not one. There's not one tomorrow, and there's not one next week.
Right.
And we won't be able to do a live stream next. We will tomorrow, but not next Friday because
Evening.
I'll be out of town. So we're gonna Pixel is gonna be going dark
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Well, our live
Just
stream's
like
not tomorrow.
tomorrow's Thursday. That's
Yeah.
right.
Um,
So in 2 days.
but yeah, but
So,
again, that's Games Done Quick week. So you may not see our beautiful faces, but we still got some good content to consume for any of you guys that are going to be sad.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't think there's anything else in my notes. I
All
think
right.
we tackled most of it.
Well,
Ooh,
thank you all. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, this isn't new, but one thing for y'all in the comments or in the Discord, I would love to hear who your guesses are on who the Downfall cast is going to play. Now, whether just pretend if it's God or champion, like either way, just like which God do you think they're going to represent? Um,
Hmm.
Curious for your thoughts.
Well, let us know in the comments or in Discord, and then we'll have our stream on Friday. We'll have Worlds Beyond at by Monday at the latest,
Mm,
and then maybe some games done quick discussion. So
yeah,
we'll see.
already y'all. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.